When your life is a completely chaotic mess, what on earth is God doing? Do you ever get times like that? I know I do. My life seems to be completely chaotic. Everything is going wrong, the stress and the strain is just too much, and I get to wondering where God is and if He's actually engaging with my situation at all. Sound familiar? Well, we are not the only ones, believe me, and one of the greatest examples in the Bible is Mary, the mother of Jesus. Think about her story for a moment. In Luke chapter 1, the angel Gabriel visits her and says, "Greetings, highly favoured one." And even though she was obedient to that calling by God, there must have been moments in the coming months when she felt anything but highly favoured. Her life was far from plain sailing. In fact, to be honest, Mary's life was a bit of a mess. Her marriage was a mess. Pregnant before the wedding, an embarrassment to Joseph, who was considering a quick divorce and moving on. Her finances were a mess. When Joseph and Mary got to Bethlehem, they couldn't find a room to stay in, but I'm pretty sure the palm of an enterprising innkeeper could have been greased with a few denarii to find some sort of a room. But Joseph was just a poor carpenter with no money to spare. Mary's community was in a mess, living under Roman occupation and oppressive military dictatorship, and even the local Jewish leaders were tyrants ruling over society with a rod of iron. Marriage, money, community. Mary's world was in a mess. Perhaps we might feel a bit like Mary. We look at our lives and see chaos and mess. Relationships are not how we'd like them to be. Financial stress, maybe feeling trapped and unable to escape from our day-to-day pressures. It seems a stark contrast to our hopes and dreams, and we may wonder where God's favour has gone in our lives. But in this story of Mary's life, the mess wasn't the whole picture. Something else was happening too. There was a miracle emerging from the mess. Jesus Christ, the Saviour of the world, was emerging from her. When she looked at the external circumstances, the marriage, the money, the community, all Mary could see was chaos and confusion. But when she remembered God's promise to her, she could see beyond the mess and find the miracle. I wonder if there's a miracle emerging from your mess. You might not be able to see it, but that doesn't mean it isn't growing, waiting for the right time to emerge. Mary had to wait 9 months, and even then she had to escape and flee as a refugee into Egypt and wait a few years longer before returning home in safety. Mary had to be so patient and hold on to God's promise so that the miracle could emerge from the mess. And maybe you too will need to be patient and hold on to God's promise that a miracle will emerge from the mess. But there's something else very profound that we can learn from this aspect of Mary's story, which is this. The miracle did not emerge from her despite the chaos, but that the chaos itself was part of the emerging miracle. The historical circumstances surrounding the birth of Jesus are part of the miracle itself. The fact that it happened in Bethlehem, a tiny backwater place so ordinary, is part of the miracle because it teaches us that God's miracles happen in ordinary places. The fact that the birth of the King of Kings and Lord of Lords happened at a time when the political power of the Roman Empire had never been stronger is part of the miracle because it teaches us that God's miracles happen at the right time, despite the odds. The fact that such an ordinary event as the birth of a child can have such a transformative cosmic impact to bring salvation to the world is part of the miracle, because it teaches us that God can make the ordinary quite extraordinary. And all this teaches us that God does not transcend the chaos and mess of our lives and work a miracle in us despite that chaos and mess. Instead, He uses the chaos and mess to give birth to the miracle. The chaos and mess of your life is the womb for God's miracle. A miracle will emerge from the mess because this is the right place at the right time for the right thing. If we look at our lives from a purely human perspective, we may only see mess. But if we try to discern the hand of God on us, we may just see a miracle emerging from that mess. Sometimes we need to sift through the rubble and the debris of bad decisions and wrong choices or financial struggles and broken relationships and whatever else may appear chaotic in your world. But as we sift through all that, the miracle can be seen. It may not be birthed today or tomorrow. It may need to grow inside of you for a while longer, but in the right place at the right time, the miracle you need will be born. It will emerge into your life and it will be the right thing for you. So like Mary, we need to be able to look deeply into our circumstances and trust that God is growing a miracle inside us. If we can do that, we'll be able to make some sense of the mess and learn to see it for what it is, the birthplace of a miracle, and then our faith in God will increase, and we will be able to join with Mary and say, "I am the Lord's servant. May it be to me as you have said."